Salmon, the ancient warrior, food that strengthened generations and still supports us after 60. If you travel back to the cold rivers of Scotland, the fjords of Norway, or the misty forests of the Pacific Northwest, you'll find a story older than kingdoms, languages, and most of the foods we eat today. A story carried on the back of a single, determined fish. Salmon fighting upstream, leaping against waterfalls, returning to the place where their life began. A symbol of endurance, strength, and survival. Long before maps were drawn, long before countries had names, people followed the salmon. They watched the rivers change color as thousands of silver bodies returned from the ocean. Children would run barefoot to the riverbanks, listening to the thunder of the water as salmon fought against the current. Elders taught that salmon were not just fish. They were messengers of the sea, travelers who carried the strength of the ocean into the heart of the land. Some tribes believed salmon remembered every river bend, every rock, every tree that leaned over the water, and that if you treated the salmon with respect, they would always find their way back to you. This idea that nature and people depend on each other was at the center of life for many communities. Welcome to Senior Health Plus, where we talk honestly and simply about the changes we face after 60 and the small daily habits that help us feel our best. Today's food story is about salmon, a food that nourished warriors, explorers, families, and entire cultures, long before we understood why it was so powerful. For the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, the return of salmon each year was more than a season. It was a promise. Salmon meant warmth after winter, strength after hunger, hope after waiting. Families lined riverbanks as thousands of salmon pushed through icy water, their bodies glowing silver in the sun. Villages celebrated the first salmon ceremony, a beautiful tradition passed down for generations. The first fish caught was carried into the village as gently as a newborn child. It was cooked with great care and shared with the entire community as a reminder that life is meant to be shared. The bones were returned to the river so the salmon spirit could travel back to the ocean and tell the others it had been treated well. Elders would say, "What you give to the salmon gives back to you." And because of that belief, they protected the rivers, the forests, and the delicate balance of nature. It was one of the earliest forms of conservation in North America. Far across the ocean, salmon shaped another powerful people, the Vikings. Their lives were cold, harsh, unpredictable. A Viking who wasn't strong simply didn't survive, and salmon was strength. Mothers dried strips of salmon for their children through winter. Explorers carried smoked salmon on long sea voyages. Warriors believed salmon made the body steady and the mind sharp for battle. To this day, Norwegians still say, "Salmon is the strength of the sea." Viking children grew up with stories of salmon that leapt so high they looked like sparks of fire in the cold air. Fishermen studied the tides, the temperature of the water, the moon cycles, all to understand when the salmon would return. During long voyages, warriors carried barrels of salted salmon stacked tightly in wooden ships to survive months on the open sea. It wasn't just food, it was endurance, packed into a simple, beautiful creature. In Scotland, salmon was wrapped in legends. Along the River Tay and River Tweed, fathers taught sons to fish with patience, and mothers simmered salmon in stews that warmed entire households. In Celtic mythology, salmon represented wisdom. The salmon of knowledge was said to contain all the world's secrets, earned from swimming through time itself. One legend tells of a poet named Finn who burned his thumb while cooking the salmon and instinctively put it in his mouth. In that moment, he gained great wisdom and insight. To Scottish families, salmon became a symbol of truth, wisdom, and the long journey of life. When Scottish, Irish, and Scandinavian settlers came to North America, they found rivers that reminded them of home, cold, clear, powerful. Early settlers wrote in journals about salmon, as big as a man's leg, so plentiful you could catch 2 fish with a single cast. In Maine, children stood on small wooden bridges and watched salmon flash beneath them. In the Pacific Northwest, entire communities built their towns around the salmon runs. They brought their old world techniques, smoking salmon over alder wood, salting it for winter, drying it on racks near the shore. Salmon became a piece of home in a land that was wild, new, and unpredictable. It connected them to the ancestors they left behind and helped them build the future they hoped for. For thousands of years, salmon has been a steady companion to humanity through storms, migrations, celebrations, and hardships. People admired salmon because it never gave up, never stopped fighting its way home, never stopped moving forward, even when the current pushed hard against it. And in many ways, its journey mirrors our own, especially as we grow older, when the path sometimes feels steeper and our strength must come from deeper places. Just as salmon nourished those who came before us, it has the power to nourish us today in gentle, meaningful ways that support healthy aging. Now, let's shift from story to simple senior health wisdom. Salmon isn't just delicious. It is one of the most supportive foods for adults over 60. Salmon supports heart health. Its natural omega-3 fats help lower inflammation and support healthy blood pressure. For older adults, this is one of the most protective foods you can choose. Salmon also supports brain health and memory. Omega-3s nourish the brain, helping support clarity, focus, and long-term cognitive function. Many cultures believed salmon gave wisdom, and science now agrees. It supports joints and reduces stiffness. As we age, inflammation rises. Salmon contains nutrients that help calm the body and support more comfortable movement. A simple salmon meal once or twice a week can make mornings feel a little easier. It supports eye health. Older adults often experience dry eyes or vision changes. Omega-3s help support tear production, moisture, and long-term eye comfort. And salmon supports muscle strength. After 60, we naturally lose muscle mass. Salmon's high-quality protein helps maintain strength and supports healing. Even small servings count. You don't need fancy recipes. You don't need big portions. A simple goal: one salmon meal per week. Grilled, baked, canned, or smoked. They all help. Your body will know what to do. Thank you for joining me for today's food story. I hope this journey brought you warmth, curiosity, and a reminder that the foods of our past can guide us gently into our future. Salmon nourished warriors, explorers, and families for thousands of years. And today, it can nourish you too. If you enjoyed this story, I hope you'll stay for more videos like this and small habits that help us feel our best after 60. Until next time, take good care of yourself, one nourishing choice and one peaceful moment at a time. How often do you eat a week? Comment below.